Okay, let's start with Aftersun. This is a movie that has taken us basically,
Two
a
weeks.
week or 2 weeks to finish. We got through probably two-thirds of it, and then the last third of it just kind of sat for like a week and a half. And we didn't really want to go back to it because it was slow and it felt like nothing really was happening, and I guess that's a synonym for slow.
But it wasn't even that it was slow. It was that the a lot of shots were very lingering
Mm-hmm.
in a way that was boring to us at times.
Yeah, I still liked it.
I like it
And I
now.
did say that I did say that I still liked it even after we paused it that first time. But you're right, like it felt very contemplative, sometimes too much so. Anyways, we let it sit for a while and then we came back to it, and this is my first note that I wrote down. I think that I may have had another La La Land experience with this movie. Do you know what I'm saying?
You liked La La Land the whole time, though.
No.
I
Not
was thinking, if you're using that example, I feel like Dirty Dancing is a better example.
no.
Really?
Because yeah, I kind of I liked La La Land okay at like a 70% or whatever. That's sort of how I was feeling with Aftersun
At a 70%?
ish, yeah.
Okay.
And then the ending came, and when I saw the ending of La La Land for the first time, I was like,
It wasn't the ending that did it for you.
yes, it was.
No, it was the dancing in the sky part.
Oh, you're right. No,
Okay.
yeah, but okay, but also I'm right at the same time because I watched you watching La La Land one time after the first time that I'd seen it.
Mm.
And it was the ending that made me go, hang on a second, I'm missing something here. And then I went back and watched it myself and realized, oh yeah, this is a really special movie.
Okay.
So it was the ending that
Okay.
triggered the, me to take it more seriously.
But I was right first.
Right, but I was also right second and right last. So, deal with it.
Mm.
After Sun is absolutely one of those movies. I think gonna be that kind of movie for me because we saw the last third of this movie last night, and it made an impression for sure. I remember you said the last 30 minutes of this movie made the whole thing worth it.
Yeah,
I felt that too, although I don't think I really truly understood what was going on with the ending. I just knew that it was really well done.
for sure.
Yeah, and very and meaningful in some way. You know, fast forward to today, I start reading some things about what this movie, what happened in this movie. What does the ending mean? What do certain elements of the scenes mean that you see throughout the film, and then leading into the climax? What does all that mean?
What's the underlying story?
Right. I watched a video about it, and dang, I'm not going to spoil anything because I think you should watch this. Be forewarned, it is very slow. I guess we should tell them what it is, right?
Okay, so this movie is about Callum, the dad, and Sophie,
His daughter, who's 11.
and they're on vacation in Turkey. And throughout the duration of the movie, you kind of find out that Sophie's parents are not together, and this she lives with mom in Scotland, and dad, Callum, lives in London.
Right. But he's also from Edinburgh.
Yeah.
So they're both Scottish.
And they're on summer holiday. She's on summer holiday and they go on vacation before school starts. And it's you kind of find out throughout the movie that like Callum doesn't see Sophie very often.
Yeah.
So this is their big trip.
And it's in the format of, I don't want to say half, but a good chunk of it is through like VHS style tapes. So you see a lot of these. This movie is Sophie reflecting back on this holiday that she shared with her dad
Through memories and through
through
watching
memories
VHS
and the
tapes
tapes, and they're merged together
at times.
really beautifully
Yeah.
well, and also like there are synchronicities and also inconsistencies that are really consistent with the way that memory works. Like, for example, there will be tapes where Callum is wearing a cast, and then in Sophie's memory, he's not wearing a cast. Or, you know, like just little details like that where things fit, but then they don't fit. And it really makes sense because if you consider what Sophie's doing, she's sort of piecing together her memory of this experience which happened roughly 20-ish years ago.
I think it's more than that.
I think it's about 20 because
Really?
Callum is around 31 during the time.
One of the reviews that I watched said that she's 40.
Really?
Uh,
I thought she was supposed to be roughly the same age as he was during that.
that would make sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess like 20 years.
Yeah. Anyway, it makes sense that there would be inconsistencies with her memory versus the videotape versus other memories of hers from that same trip because she's thinking back 20 years ago and your memory is not perfect. And your memory will fill in things based on your biases and based on the way that you felt while you were on that trip and based on the way you feel now. It's really like this is a movie that's like kind of incredible when you look back at it, having seen the full picture, and then you look back at all the details and you're like, and then you're able to appreciate it even more. You know, that's the format. It's her reflecting, and it's like Micah said, there's a lot of lingering shots because this is her memory. This is her memory of the trip that she took with her dad.
I think some of those lingering shots were just also to put emphasis on the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't realize that at the time.
Yeah.
This is definitely a movie that is worth seeing at least twice.
Yes.
I would say watch it once.
Blind.
Right.
Yeah.
Read a review, watch a video explaining it, listen to this, and and then watch it again.
Yeah. Because it is going to take on a whole lot more meaning and a whole lot more weight the second time you watch it, knowing the full picture, and then you're able to, pick out details that will help you that help foreshadow some of the themes and the things that you're supposed to think about and
piece together the
react
story better the second time.
Yeah, also that, for sure, also that. And it's very, very real feeling. It feels like a real dad with a real daughter. Their relationship is really good. He's like caring and he's gentle and he's playful. Like they joke and banter back and forth with each other.
They enjoy spending time together.
Yeah, but it also doesn't feel like a fake, we're all smiling and we're all giggling like crazy all the time.
Like, this is the only time you see dad, so you have to be happy.
Yeah.
And this is the only time you see Sophie, so you have to be happy.
It feels like that real scenario where this dad doesn't get to see his daughter as much as he wants, but they still love each other.
Yeah.
It really feels like that. One thing that I wrote down is it makes you want to be a good parent, not a perfect parent, which I think is actually kind of an important note because Callum is not a perfect parent, but he is a very good parent.
Yeah.
And he's very attentive and he's very honest with his daughter, and he says he's sorry when he makes mistakes and he doesn't pretend like he doesn't make mistakes. And there's a moment in the movie where Sophie has her first kiss. It's not really that big of a spoiler. And she tells him this and he's like, "Oh, that's all right. Just a wee peck on the cheek then." And we know that he's joking and Sophie knows that he's joking, and she hits him, and like they're laughing, and he's like, "But you can talk to me about any of this kind of stuff, right?" And he's like, "Any of the boys you kiss, any of the girls you kiss, any of the drugs you take, I've done it all, and you can talk to me about it." So like there, right there, he's sort of unveiling his flaws, right? I've done things in the past that
I've lived a life.
Yeah, that are maybe not like they're maybe not what you're supposed to do. And I smoke, and I am not supposed to smoke, but I do. But you can talk to me about these things. That's what I mean. Like, not a perfect parent, but a very good parent. And that's, in a sort of contradictory way, what a perfect parent is, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Someone who isn't perfect, but is relatable to their kid. There's also, I'm going to say this now because it's going to be important when we do talk about spoilers, but as we see all these memories and the videotapes and everything of the vacation, every once in a while we cut to like a rave that's going on in the present day that Sophie is attending. And these moments are like really brief and it's really kind of hard to make out what's going on. There's a lot of flashing, strobing lights, and it's very dark when the strobe isn't on. But we know that Sophie's there and she's sort of wandering through the crowd. So you see a handful of these scenes that are like intercut into the memories and the videotapes and everything as the movie runs on. So just keep that in mind. What else did you like or not like about it?
I think this is that actress's first movie.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
Yeah.
She did
Amazing.
so well.
I feel like there have been a lot of these recently. Like these.
Well, I think this came out in what, 22?
Yeah, that sounds right. Because then there was Scrapper, right, in 23. And then there was Stillwater with that little French girl.
In 2020 or something?
Right.
Or 19? Let's see. 21 is when Stillwater came out.
And this was 22.
Yeah, and then Scrapper was
23.
23.
So, like, geez, like, back to back to back, incredibly good debut kid actress performances.
Yeah. I will say, I was comparing this movie to Scrapper
Yeah.
the whole time. Until the last 30 minutes. And that was my issue, my biggest regret with watching this, is that I was comparing it to a movie that it's not trying to compete with,
No.
that it's not trying to be.
No.
The only thing that is similar to it is it's a father-daughter duo.
Yeah.
I regret that, because
In some way though, I think it is kind of fair to compare them, and I think it's.
but I don't
not,
think you should.
You shouldn't expect Scrapper when you're watching this, and you shouldn't expect this when you're watching Scrapper. But I'm gonna say something if I remember. Hopefully I remember. But I'm gonna say something in the spoiler section where I do compare these two in a little way, because they feel like cousins in a certain way, especially
Yeah.
with the endings of those two movies.
Yeah. I just think this movie has parts that are funny. It has a decent amount of parts that are funny. But would I label this a comedy?
Absolutely not.
No.
No.
Scrapper has parts that are intense and are heartfelt.
Yeah.
Would I label that whatever that would be? No.
You'd call Scrapper a comedy?
More of a comedy. I mean, it's a comedy drama for sure, but
I definitely think I think these are both heartfelt.
I'm just saying that they have similarities.
Yeah.
But they're not each other,
right.
Basically.
Yeah. I don't know. Because even the comedy in Scrapper, like, it's funny, but it's also funnier because it's touching.
Yeah.
Like the scene where they're dancing in the abandoned whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny because they're bantering and teasing each other, but you're also like kind of tearing up at the same time. And then also when they're mimicking those people on the
and they can say we can hear you.
Yeah, on the platform, same thing. Like, he's comforting Georgie in that moment, so it's really funny, and that's why you laugh as hard as you do, because it breaks the tension of the sad things that are going on.
Yeah.
But you still have like tears welling up a little bit. I think the Aftersun is sort of similar to that, but there are parts in Scrapper that are just straight up funny, like the spiders and them imagining who. What's her dad's name again?
Harrison Dixon.
Yeah, Harris Dickinson. As a quick aside, this last 24 or this last like 12-month cycle in our lives, we've discovered Harris Dickinson for the first time through Scrapper, and then the Iron Claw. And then we discovered Paul Mescal for the first time, first through Gladiator 2, which, it's really not like the best first impression. It's not a bad first impression, but Aftersun. And by the way, he's really, really good in this movie. And Harris Dickinson is really, really good in Scrapper. And then, Barry Keoghan, we've sort of known about him for a little bit. He's been around, I think, in our minds at least, more than those other two. And we just found out today that Harris Dickinson is going to be playing John Lennon. Paul Mescal is playing Paul McCartney. And Barry Keoghan is playing Ringo Starr. And then Joseph Quinn, if you've seen Stranger Things, is playing George Harrison in the Beatles biopic. And that is exciting.
I think that they'll have really good rapport.
Yeah.
On screen.
Yeah. I feel like it's, at least with Barry Keoghan, Harris Dickinson, and Paul Mescal, it's like the trifecta of underrated United Kingdom actors.
That's fair.
Right? All they're missing is Cillian Murphy and Aidan Gillian, Littlefinger from Game of Thrones.
Oh.
All they're missing are those two, and we'd have the full set, right? So I'm excited about that.
Well, I think this movie is kind of hard to talk about without spoilers.
It really is.
I'm going to have Braden link the video that we talked about, not that we talked about, that we watched explaining this movie, because there's a few comments on there that I want to bring up in spoilers.
Mm,
And I want to give credit where credit's due,
right.
you know.
It was a
So
great video.
it was a really, really good video.
Yeah.
I just think this movie does a really good job of talking about important things
Yeah.
without throwing it in your face.
Or showing important things.
Showing,
Yeah.
you know?
In a way, yeah, it's so hard to tiptoe around this. In a way that's not annoyingly
in your face
Yeah.
and obvious or know-it-all. I don't know what the
Yeah.
right word is, but
Yeah.
it's subtle.
It's incredibly truthful too.
Yes.
And this was the first film directed by this director as well.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Amazing. Same with Scrapper, by the way.
Huh.
There's something about like making your first film a heartfelt daddy-daughter film, I guess, because shit.
I just think give this movie a try.
If you start it, you have to finish it.
You have to finish it.
Because you just need to.
And please don't listen to the spoilers if you haven't seen this movie.
Right.
Watch this movie. I cannot recommend this enough, I feel like. Again, I was comparing it to another movie. I thought it was kind of slow. I thought some of the shots were annoying.
And you will too, probably.
You might. But the last half hour to third of this movie is worth it. And then watch a video explaining it. Again, I'll have Braden link the video that we watched.
Yeah.
And then watch it again or think about it, you know, because this movie is worth it.
Not only does the last half hour make it worth it, it recontextualizes everything in a way that makes the first 2/3 much more rich. And I'm going to watch this again. And this doesn't happen to me very often, where I feel like I need to immediately go back and watch it again, but I feel like I need to with this one, because, you know, not to be a slut and spoil things about our end of 2025 wrap-up show that we're going to do in January or December, but I think this has a very strong potential to be my favorite movie I've watched this year. If I go back and rewatch it and just make sure that that's actually my opinion, I mean, this is the front runner so far of everything I've seen this year.
Wow.
To be fair, we haven't seen that much, and I haven't seen Warfare or Sinners or some of those other ones that are getting a lot of buzz right now. But yeah, this one is like special. Ditto what Micah said.
Okay, you're going to rate it?
Yeah. I think at this point in time, I'm going to give it a 9 goofy Tai Chi dance moves by Dad out of 10. And that 9 has the potential to move up to a 10.
But you're ranking it right now.
Yeah.
Oh, basically, yeah. Okay.
And I'll say, like, just to give you context and warn you, yes, the first 2/3 are going to feel slow to you, but there's a payoff at the end. If it had just been the first 2/3 of the movie by itself, this would probably be getting a 7, like I said. That's how good the ending is. Bumps it up a whole extra 2 points. I guess it's sort of similar to My Old Ass in a way, where like the ending is so good that it, you know, it bumps it up. But My Old Ass was a 3 or a 4 for the first 2/3, and then it was a 9 or a 10 during the last half hour. So, you know, it evens out to about like a 6 or a 7 for that one. This one was a 7. The ending was a 10. Ergo, it's a 9, and maybe the whole thing is a 10. I'm going to watch it again and find out.
So I think I already basically rated, you know, gave my thoughts on it just with my preface about you watching this movie. So I'm going to rate this also a 9. I'm going to rate this a 9 yellow bedrooms out of 10. I think this movie has a lot of depth. And I know that I've talked about this in the last few episodes, but I think that the creators of this movie did a really good job of treating the viewers like they're smart.
Yeah.
In a way that makes me want to watch it again to fully appreciate them treating us like we're smart.
But it's also not like Black Bag, where you need to be paying attention, and you need to have a really, you know, quick mind when it comes to plot points and names and dates and all that. The stuff to get here is actually not really that hard to get. It's just not stated, you know, word for word, verbatim, right to your face. You have to dig like a little bit, but it's all there and it's all pretty accessible.
This is a movie to reflect on.
Yeah.
So, spoilers.
Yeah. So
Again, if you haven't seen this, don't listen to this
yeah,
section. Skip ahead.
yeah. There's something about sad movies with sad endings that just clicks with me. I don't know why. Like La La Land for me, yeah, it's a bittersweet ending. Bittersweet. They get to follow their dreams. That to me is a sad ending more than a happy ending.
Oh, for sure.
And that's why I loved it so much, because it just
La La Land.
it hits you. And I don't like it when movies are sad for the sake of being sad. Like if it's just to be crass trauma porn, I don't like that. That's part of the reason why I don't really like the ending of the second Ori game. That just felt like they were being mean to you with how sad everything was at the end of that game. If a movie is genuinely, if it's heartfelt and true and real and it feels that way and the ending is sad, that's earned. And that I love a movie that ends like that. How
You
do
want to
you?
know what I was thinking of? That one that is just mean,
Yeah.
but it's probably historically accurate.
Huh.
All Quiet on the Western Front.
Oh,
The,
geez, that one's brutal. Yeah.
that movie messed me up
Yeah.
for days.
Yeah. That one's
I
rough.
think that put me into a depressive episode, honestly.
How about the Red Wedding from Game of Thrones?
Oh my gosh, that too.
I think that's mean. That one is mean too.
Yeah.
That one is mean. The thing is, it's just that show is so good for the first four seasons that you're just like, okay.
Okay,
I
so
hate that episode, but whatever.
yeah.
But
Okay, so this movie is talking a lot about how Callum is suffering from depression.
yeah,
Severe depression.
yeah,
You kind of figure out throughout the course of the movie, or like us, you figure out after watching a video and reflecting on it, that this is the last hurrah, basically. This
yeah,
is his last thing he's going to do with his daughter, and he is kind of spending money recklessly.
mm-hmm.
He can't control his depression at times
Yeah,
and his emotions when it comes to that. This is the last time Sophie sees him, is
yeah.
this vacation.
And that's why she's reflecting on it, because it's, presumably she is turning the same age as her dad was the last time she saw him, and
Yeah.
now she's trying to come to terms with what happened, and she's trying to understand who he really was that whole time, because she saw him one way, which is another like brilliant reason to watch this movie again, because you see her memories through her eyes, and he'll seem totally fine, just a little bit
Like there were
quirks
moments
and
where it sounds like they've gone on vacation before and they always do karaoke night.
yeah,
And she signs them up and he doesn't want to do it.
yeah,
And he doesn't do it. And he kind of is a butt about it, not very nice, and then he leaves and she's left to hang out by herself at the resort.
yeah,
And so there's just things that are off that she doesn't notice because she's just a kid.
yeah,
And it's not her job to notice that.
yeah. And now she's looking back and trying to, she's trying to reconcile. I think that's even in the description. She's trying to reconcile the dad that she knew versus
Who he was.
who he really was, what he was really suffering with. And it's heavy. It's really heavy. And the ending is like so, like I watched it again today and I was tearing up watching it, because the very end of this movie, it's their last day at the resort, and Callum starts to dance because there's a dance going on, and they're playing Under Pressure by Queen and David Bowie. And you can, I think they did allude to the fact that he is kind of a dancer and he has been a partier in the past. And, this is an activity that makes him feel a little bit free and disconnected, I guess. And so he just jumps onto the dance floor and starts dancing to Under Pressure. And Sophie's like, Dad, you're being goofy, whatever. And he's like, oh, it's not goofy. And he's just dancing. And you think it's like a really sweet, touching moment, right? And then it gets to the I don't know if that part of the song is called the bridge. It's right before the chorus.
Mm-hmm.
But like they get to the part where they're saying, this is our last dance, this is our last dance. And then it becomes sort of distorted. And then the song ends. And you see Sophie find Callum in that like stroby nightclub thing that I alluded to earlier. and she's trying to like grab him and get his attention.
Because apparently throughout the movie during these rave parts, she finds him and he's dancing and he's having fun. And
Or he just looks sort of disconnected. He's just almost like he's possessed.
that's at the end.
That's how I always saw it.
Oh,
Like
really?
he never looked like he was smiling. He just kind of looked like he was throwing his body around.
Okay. And at the end, the last rave scene,
Yeah.
he's upset. And she's grabbing him and trying,
yelling at him
and shaking him and
yeah.
trying to get his attention. And he is not paying attention. He keeps dancing and he's just going crazy.
And it cuts back to like her memory of them dancing in Turkey, and they're just like
hugging
super tight. That's her trying to rescue him. And that was so sad to me, especially as I was holding our daughter as we were watching this scene. I was just like, this is hard. This is hard to watch, because just imagine how your little girl would feel, if you just were there one day and you had a good relationship and then you were gone. Yeah, but also like no judgment, because
life is hard.
He had problems and he was really trying. Like throughout the movie you see all these like Tai Chi and like Zen books, and he's trying to figure out his
shit,
but he can't.
Yeah.
And he can't do it. And then the very last shot of the movie is you see the camera panning around Sophie's modern day room, and you hear like a little baby cry in the background. So I think it's kind of implied that she has a kid too.
Mm-hmm.
And the camera continues to pan, and then it pans in front of a wall, and then it pans over, and you see Callum holding the video camera in the airport when he's saying goodbye to Sophie, sending her back to Edinburgh. Then he closes the video camera and he turns around and he walks to the end of the hallway and he opens up the door and he walks into that really strobe,
into the rave.
And then that's where the movie ends. So like Callum says bye to his daughter. He says, "I love you." That's like one of the last lines. And then he walks into darkness and then he's gone.
Yeah. That was really, really sad.
But so earned though. And all the hints were there the whole time. There's a line where he's talking to a scuba dive instructor, and the scuba dive, or maybe he's talking to Sophie, I can't remember.
It's the instructor.
Someone asks him where he thinks he's going to be at 40 years old, and he says, I didn't think I was going to make it to 30, honestly. I can't really see myself at 40. And you sort of brush it off and you're like, yeah, we all think that, right? But when he says that,
he means it.
It's a cry for help. It's a warning sign. And the fact that he has no money and he spends all his money on this expensive rug in Turkey, and you can tell that he's upset about the fact that he can't afford it, but he buys it anyway. And then the last night that he's with Sophie, a photographer comes around and takes their picture. It's a tourist trap that exists in every single resort town in the world. The photographer will come by and charge you, they'll gouge you for a picture, right? A picture that you could have had the couple over at the next table take with your own point and shoot. But he pays for it. He's like, yeah, let's do it.
Because he's already decided.
He's decided this is it. And there's signs like that all throughout the movie.
There's a part at the beginning where Sophie is recording Callum and kind of trying to do a Q&A.
Mm-hmm.
And she's 11, and she says, "What did you do?" Or what did you do for your 11th birthday? Or something along the lines of that.
Yeah.
And he makes a comment about how his parents forgot
that it was his 11th birthday.
That it was his birthday.
Yeah.
And so I read this comment on the video that I'm going to have Braden link that talked about how his parents were neglectful.
Yeah.
And he didn't want to be that. And so there's that night at karaoke when he leaves her, he, is having a moment of selfishness, a depressive...
Yeah.
An intense depressive moment, I would say.
Yeah.
And he goes back to the room and he leaves Sophie at the resort, and she doesn't have a key to get back into their room, and it takes her long. She couldn't really figure out how to get back to their room. And eventually when she does, it's super late at night, and she goes in and he's completely passed out on her bed.
Yeah.
And the next morning,
They sort of do a misdirect right before that because that same night he runs into the ocean
mm-hmm,
and it's super dark and you are like, oh, is he gonna commit suicide? And he doesn't,
mm-mm.
so he's naked on the bed, face down, and Sophie covers him up.
Yeah.
And before he covered Sophie up, there's parallels, and you can tell how much they care about each other.
But the next morning, Sophie's like, "Oh, I didn't have a key to get
Yeah,
in the room." Or he apologizes
yeah,
for sleeping on her bed, and she's like, "Oh yeah, I didn't have a key." And he gets really upset. And
at himself.
at himself. And he
Yeah,
apologizes, and she's like, "Oh, it's okay." And he's like, "No, it's not okay."
yeah,
And so this comment that I read on that video was just talking about how he didn't want to be his parents. He wanted her to
yeah.
feel loved, and he was mad at himself that he potentially made her feel neglected and unloved and unwanted and all of those different emotions.
Another point that I was going to bring up where he wants to get it right and he gets so frustrated when he doesn't get it right. And there's another part where they come home from a day where they just did a lot of stuff. They
That's
had an
what I was going to
excursion.
say.
Okay. And she says, do you know sometimes when you come home and you just feel so tired and even though you've had a great day, I'm going to stop doing that because it's a fucking cartoon probably. But she's like, but you can't stop feeling tired and it's weird, and she's sort of touching on a little depressive episode maybe, and she feels like she should be super happy and feel super fulfilled, but she just doesn't on that day for whatever reason. Callum, you can see that this affects him on his face and he doesn't really say anything. He's like, well, it's okay, like we'll go to bed, we'll have a great day tomorrow, right? She's like, yeah. And so they turn off the light, they go to bed. But then Callum is looking at himself in the mirror and he spits at the mirror. He feels like he's failing. He feels like he's passing on his shit to his kid. And that really bothers him.
Yeah.
And it's just heartbreaking. It's really, really heartbreaking.
It just makes you want to make sure that you're the best version of yourself. Not fully, nobody's perfect, but
Yeah.
I don't know. Just as someone that suffers from depression,
Yeah.
makes me want to make sure that I take care of myself.
Yeah. 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 And that's like the power of movies, is they can make you think this way and they can make you reflect and they can make you feel this way, like, quite often in a way that is hard to get from other sources. Like I've never gone to an art museum and looked at a painting and felt the way that I did after watching Aftersun. Like that's the power of that's movie magic, baby. There are two more notes that I wanted to bring up. The first one is, so Aftersun apparently is a post sunburn lotion that you can buy in certain parts of the world. So it's supposed to help you heal from a sunburn. And that's exactly what Sophie is trying to do in this movie. She's trying to heal from everything, from, the happy memories, especially because she had a dad that she loved and who made her happy, and now he's gone.
But
And
she wanted to see more.
yeah. And like that scene where she's just trying to get his attention in the nightclub, that's just awful. It's so rough to watch. And he just can't listen. So anyway, that's why it's called Aftersun. The last note that I had was, why isn't it more obvious that he committed suicide? Because it's not super obvious. Like we had to Google that, for lack of a better word. We had to find that out through Google. But then when you think about the hints that this movie gave you, it actually is obvious. It's pretty clear that the future version of Sophie has no relationship anymore with her dad. Why is that? That doesn't make sense based on everything that we're seeing on this vacation. They would have had to have a crazy falling out for him to still be alive and them to not have a relationship. So that naturally should lead you to thinking, oh, it's because he's not here anymore. I think that that's really brilliant because the film kind of suckers you into denial, because you see the things that are a little bit worrying that Callum says and does, but then you also see the great relationship that they have and the happy memories that they have. Right. So you see all that stuff and you're like, okay, he's fine. He's fine. He's going to be fine. They're going to be fine. So the film puts you into denial, just like it's presumably been putting Sophie into denial for these 20 years since whatever happened. I think that that's definitely intentional. Like the director and the writer director is making you feel the same way almost that Sophie is feeling. And I think that's just like, how did she do that on her first swing? Just crazy. Do you have anything else you want to talk about? Yeah, man, what a movie, right? Oh, I did remember the reason that I wanted to compare this to Scrapper is a heartfelt movie with a lot of, heartache, sadness, and anguish, whatever, healthy dose of humor, just like this one, but it ends in a positive place. You get to see how a sad story can become a good story if the two parties involved choose to make it so. And this one is a cousin to that movie in a certain sense because you get to see how a happy story can become a sad story. Both equally realistic. It all just depends on context, right?
Yeah.
So I think that they are sort of related in that way. That's why I said it's kind of fair to compare them, but also kind of not, because they are different.
Yeah, that's fair.
And that was my last thing. That was your last thing? Okay. Yeah, go watch Aftersun. Oh, Parents Guide.
I can't put it at the end like this.
So I looked this up. This is rated R because there are 5 F words in it. They were like 3 over the legal limit. This movie is totally acceptable for anyone to watch, in my opinion. There's not any nudity.
There's a butt.
You don't see it. You don't see it at all.
A butt.
You see the side. You don't even see
his butt.
You don't even see the crack.
Yeah, you do.
When?
When he's passed out on the bed.
Yeah, just from the side.
Oh.
Yeah, you don't see the crack. And it's totally non-sexual as well, obviously. There is some smoking and some drinking. That's like, and then they talk about drug use a little bit, but everything
is so mild.
It's so mild. And this is, it's almost a shame this is rated R because I'm sure people will steer clear of it because of that rating, but you shouldn't. You should watch it. Okay, this one will be quicker. So I watched A History of Violence, which is a 2025 David Cronenberg movie. David Cronenberg directed the remake of The Fly. He's sort of famous for, I don't know, like human nature sort of movies. Like, what is human nature? Wrestling with your wild nature, and that's absolutely what History of Violence is. So you have Viggo Mortensen, who plays Tom Wamsgams. I just said that to get you to pay attention. His name is Tom Stahl, and he's a very mild-mannered family man. He owns a coffee shop, and he is married. He has 2 kids. They have a happy life. He's very well respected and well loved by the community. Into his coffee shop during closing walk 2 outlaws, just 2 really just vile people. It becomes clear that they are going to kill one of his employees just because they're violent assholes. And he snaps into action and he kills both of them in defense of his employees and becomes sort of a, local hero.
What year is this set?
This is in 2005. So
is this a real story?
No. So anyway, he's like, I don't want all the attention from all these cameras. I just want to be with my family. He goes into the coffee shop the next day or the next week, whatever it is, and in walks Ed Harris. Do you know Ed Harris?
Yeah.
From Gone Baby Gone.
Yeah, that's exactly who I was thinking of. Yeah.
In walks Ed Harris. He's got a funky looking eye. Looks like he's got a blind left eye. He's wearing a black suit, walks in with 2 other people with black suits, and he starts calling Tom Joey. And he's like, man, they don't have coffee this good in Philadelphia, but you know that, don't you, Joey? And Tom is like, I'm Tom. I don't know who this Joey is. And he's like, oh, sure, Tom. Okay.
Is he in Witness Protect? WITSEC?
Is he in WITSEC? Good question. I guess you'll have to watch it to find out. But there's a reason that this movie's called A History of Violence. And there's a reason that Tom was able to kill those 2 bandits as effectively as he did. There's a reason David Cronenberg is directing this movie, and it's all about like the conflict between who Tom really is and who he wants to be, and vice versa, and all that stuff, and how that affects his family. And it's interesting. It's good. There are some really violent scenes in it that are like, that even I was like, whoa, geez. But also the violence is sort of, it's few and far between. This movie is more of an exploration of sort of like the nature of Tom / Joey. So
So he is named Joey.
I'll never tell. So I think you could watch it as long as I told you when the violent parts were coming, because the violent parts are like, oh my gosh, wow, geez, sort of like Drive, where when it happens, it's like it's pretty shocking. It's interesting. It's good. Viggo Mortensen is really good in this movie. Ed Harris is really good in this movie.
Viggo Mortensen is good in everything, though.
Yeah. But I also love seeing Ed Harris. He's got this freaking charisma
that's true.
Is so hard to match. I will say the dialogue was a little bit too quiet and too slow some of the time, a little too mild-mannered, but they're really going for that. This is Tom, this is Joey. They are very much opposite ends of the coin. I'll just rate it really quick. I think I would give this a 7.5 to an 8. There were scenes that were really excellent, and then there are scenes that I just didn't really care for that much. There are 2 sex scenes in it that I just didn't think were all that great. One of them was kind of gross. I understand it plays into the theme, but I just didn't love them. Every scene with Ed Harris and Viggo Mortensen is great, and the ending is pretty good too. Do you want me to tell you what the deal is with Tom?
You don't want to do spoilers?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so spoilers.
So spoilers here.
Does he have split personality disorder?
No. So Tom is Joey, and Joey was involved in some way with the mob back in Philadelphia, and he was very violent and very aggressive and like just kind of crazy. They called him Crazy Joey. And back in Philadelphia, he blinded Ed Harris with barbed wire, apparently.
Ooh.
Yeah, he like went into his house and
ooh, that's so gross.
And blinded him with barbed wire. And so, Ed Harris has got an axe to grind when he comes back.
Wow.
And Ed Harris is sure that that's Joey because he knows Joey. And Tom looks like Joey and sounds like Joey and he's Joey. But there's this awesome scene where like the facade is like dropped and Tom's wife is pretty sure that he's really Joey now, and his children are pretty sure that he's really Joey now. And then Ed Harris and his goons show up at Tom's house, and they're like, why don't you come with us? And they have his kid, they have his son, so they do like a trade. And then Tom tells his son to go back into the house. And when his son goes back into the house, you can see on Viggo Mortensen's face something changes. Like you can just see it.
He becomes Joey.
And it's so subtle, but it's so obvious. And you're like, whoa, Viggo's good. You're like, that is not the same guy that I'm looking at right now from one frame ago. And then he's like, it would be better if you guys would leave. And they don't leave.
Oh, shit.
And violence happens. And it's a really crazy scene and a really good scene. So this is a movie that has a lot of awesome moments, some moments that I didn't really love, and then a lot of just very competent moments. So it's a good movie and you should check it out. Just be warned, there is violence, there's sex, and there's swearing. I think that's good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so coming up, we have Django Unchained. You're going to talk about True Romance.
Yep.
And if there's time in the next episode, I have a book that I wanted to talk about.
The Crown.
Oh, I forgot about The Crown.
Do you want to do The Crown next time too?
Yeah, I'll do The Crown next.
So The Crown, Django Unchained, True Romance.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Go watch Aftersun. And go watch A History of Violence if you feel so inclined. But go watch Aftersun.
Mm-hmm.
That's about it.
Bye.